For Americans, traveling can be pretty straightforward in most cases, but there are some places where the doors are completely shut. Yep, that's right, banned. Some countries won't let Americans in for a whole bunch of reasons, like political conflicts, safety concerns, or even public health risks. It's not just about having the wrong papers. Sometimes the situation between countries gets so tense that traveling just isn't on the table. In this video, we're going to talk about 5 countries where Americans are currently banned and dig into why they've got those restrictions in place. So if you're curious about where you might need to scratch off your travel list, or you're just interested in the geopolitical drama that leads to these bans, you're in the right spot. 5. North Korea. North Korea is one of those countries that has become almost legendary for its isolation and secrecy. The relationship between the United States and North Korea has been rocky for decades, with moments of high tension and little glimmers of hope, but overall, it's safe to say they don't get along very well. So it's not surprising that North Korea isn't a place where Americans can just show up and explore. The main reason Americans are banned from visiting North Korea is because of the severe political tensions. The North Korean government is known for its strict control over everything, including who enters and leaves the country. They don't have diplomatic relations with the United States, which means if something goes wrong, there's no embassy to help you out. Another big concern is safety. There have been cases where American citizens who visited North Korea ended up in serious trouble. We're talking about lengthy detentions, forced labor, and even tragic outcomes. It's a risk that most people just aren't willing to take. There are some exceptions, but they're pretty rare. Typically, they involve humanitarian work or diplomatic efforts, and even then, it's not a guarantee. So unless you're on a very specific mission with the right approvals, North Korea is definitely off limits for American travelers. It's a country that has more questions than answers, and for most of us, it's better admired from afar. 4. Iran. Iran is another country where Americans aren't exactly welcome with open arms. The relationship between the United States and Iran has been tense for decades, dating back to the Iranian Revolution in 1979 and the subsequent hostage crisis. Since then, the two countries have had a complicated, often confrontational relationship. As you might imagine, this makes visiting Iran as an American pretty tricky. The ban on American travelers isn't just about politics. It's also about the absence of formal diplomatic relations. The United States and Iran don't have embassies in each other's countries, which means there's no direct support system for Americans who run into trouble. This lack of diplomatic ties makes travel risky and, quite frankly, not worth the hassle for most people. There are some exceptions, but they're quite limited. If you're part of a specific humanitarian or academic project, you might be able to get a visa, but the process is lengthy and unpredictable. Even then, you're likely to face scrutiny and restrictions on your movements within the country. Visiting Iran as an American can feel like walking through a maze with no clear exit. If you were hoping to visit the ancient sites or experience the unique culture of Iran, it might be best to keep it on your wish list for now. The risk factors, combined with the strict travel restrictions, make it one of those places where Americans are essentially banned. It's a reminder that geopolitics plays a big role in where we can and can't go, and sometimes it's safer to respect those boundaries. 3. Syria. Syria is a country that's been through a lot in recent years, and if you've been following the news, you know it's not exactly a safe place to visit. The ongoing civil war, which started back in 2011, has made Syria one of the most dangerous places in the world. So it's no wonder that Americans, and most other foreigners for that matter, are generally banned from traveling there. The reasons for the ban are pretty straightforward. There's intense fighting across the country, with various factions vying for control, which creates a chaotic and highly unstable environment. This level of violence makes it incredibly risky for anyone to visit, let alone Americans who might be seen as high-value targets. Kidnappings, bombings, and other forms of violence are all too common in Syria, making it a place where you just don't want to be. Even if you somehow got into Syria, the American government has issued strong warnings against travel there, urging Americans to avoid it at all costs. The risk of getting caught up in the conflict or facing other dangers is just too high. And with the lack of formal diplomatic relations, there's little to no support if things go wrong. There are a few exceptions for humanitarian aid workers and some journalists, but even they have to take extreme precautions and work under special permits. For the average traveler, Syria is a no-go zone. It's one of those places where the risks far outweigh any potential benefits, and the best way to support the people of Syria is from a safe distance. 2. Libya. Libya has had a pretty rough time over the past decade or so. After Muammar Gaddafi was overthrown in 2011, the country descended into chaos, with all kinds of armed groups fighting for control. This instability is why the U.S. government says Americans shouldn't travel there, and it's not just a suggestion, it's really not safe. So why are Americans basically banned from Libya? It's because there's so much uncertainty and danger. With all the different factions and militias clashing, things can turn violent without warning. It's not just fighting between the groups either. Civilians get caught in the crossfire, and foreigners can be targets for kidnappings, robberies, and attacks. There's no solid government to keep things under control, so you never know what's going to happen. Another big problem is that the U.S. doesn't have a strong diplomatic setup in Libya. That means if you get into trouble, there's no one to help you out. If you can't count on the embassy for support, you're pretty much on your own. And that's not a good place to be in a country like Libya. There are some exceptions, but they're really specific. You might be able to visit if you're with a government agency or a non-governmental organization, but even then, security is tight and the risks are high. For most people, though, Libya is a no-go. Yemen. Yemen is a country that's been torn apart by civil war and humanitarian crises. If you've heard about Yemen in the news, it's probably been for some pretty grim reasons: conflict, famine, or disease outbreaks. Because of all this turmoil, it's one of the most dangerous places in the world right now. The main reason Americans are banned from Yemen is the ongoing conflict. The civil war has created a chaotic and violent environment, with different groups fighting for control. It's a messy and unpredictable situation with airstrikes, bombings, and armed clashes happening all over the place. If you're a foreigner, especially an American, you could easily find yourself in the middle of a dangerous situation without any way to get out safely. Beyond the violence, there's also a massive humanitarian crisis. Yemen has been dealing with severe food shortages, lack of clean water, and widespread disease. Even if you could overcome the security risks, you'd be stepping into a country that's struggling to meet basic human needs. It's not just dangerous, it's also heartbreaking to witness the suffering. So if you were thinking about exploring the ancient sites or experiencing Yemeni culture, it's best to hold off. Right now, Yemen is in the midst of a major crisis, and the safest thing to do is to stay far away. In the end, there are plenty of amazing places to explore that aren't on the banned list. So focus on those destinations and leave the risky ones for another time. Hopefully, a future where things are more peaceful and stable. For safe travel inspiration, be sure to check out my other videos, subscribe, and hit the like button.